Hey guys, hope you're doing very well. In today's video it's going to be very different to what I would normally talk about, I guess. It's not tattoo related, I would say. Well, there's a little bit of tattoo related subject within this video, but it's more towards the end. So I've recently been seeing in my Facebook group people talking about, going on dates with people or, harassment they have gone through maybe because of their tattoos or just in life in general. Obviously it's never nice to read about, especially from people you care about, like anyone in my Facebook group. I have a soft spot for, I'm instantly protective over them, I would say. I know that sounds a bit strange, but yeah, I don't ever want anyone to go through something horrible or anything like that. I just want to do a trigger warning here, just in case. I'm going to be talking about harassment, somewhat sexual but not really. It's just uncomfortable harassment, I would say. I don't know the right terms for it. I also want to state here that the stuff I'm about to talk about is nothing compared to what other women and men and transgender, non-gender conforming people go through. Let me just throw that out there. But I feel like it's good to talk about stuff that we've been through when it comes to harassment and what have you. I don't know. I've never done a video like this. So I've had 4 of what I can remember uncomfortable harassment type situations within my life. I've obviously had catcalling and men just being gross in general towards me, but I don't know, I can't remember every single one of those type things, but there's 4 that stick out in my mind. So I want to talk about those again. They're not horrific, and I shouldn't have to say I'm lucky to not have been through something awful like rape or, sexual abuse or whatever. I shouldn't have to say I'm lucky, because everyone should live a life where they don't ever get sexually abused or raped or whatever. That's just the way the world should be. So I shouldn't have to say I'm lucky that I've never had them, but I'm lucky because I haven't had that. But I know there's plenty of people in my Facebook group that have been through stuff like that, and it's just awful, absolutely awful. And I just can't even fathom why people would do something so awful to someone. I don't get it at all. First 2 times when I was 15, 16, and I was in Lanzarote with my mum, my mum's best friend, her husband, her 2 daughters, me and my sister. My mum's best friend went to Lanzarote quite a lot. I think she had, was it a parent out there, or they had a house out there or something, I'm not sure. But we went there, and this literally happened in the space of a day. It was literally in the space of 30 seconds, if that. So we're walking down the beach. I was wearing, I don't even know, it doesn't matter what I'm wearing, but what I was wearing is, I think I was wearing maybe a white t-shirt and a pair of shorts, something like that. It was a hot day, and I was walking with my mum's best friend's daughter, who's kind of the same age as me. I think she might be a year younger than me, 2 years younger than me. We was walking by the beach on this road. I think we was looking for somewhere to eat or somewhere to go shopping, I can't remember. And we were walking, and then all of a sudden this group of guys, I think they were probably the same age as us, maybe a little bit older, probably a little bit older to be honest with you. So me and my friend would literally just walk through them type thing, because they were covering the whole of the pavement, literally the whole of the pavement. So we had to walk through them, otherwise we would have to walk on the road, and we walked through them. She ended up walking ahead of me a little bit, just to make room to go one by one type thing. And then these guys were like, ooh, chica, chica, I don't know what they were saying. They were speaking in whatever language Lanzarote people speak, I have no idea. My friend ended up getting out of the crowd type thing, but I was kind of stuck in the crowd type thing. But I was still walking, but everything was slow motion, it was just so weird. And I was walking through, and then they started grabbing me. They grabbed my ass, grabbed my hip area, here. Oh my god, you can see my bra, what the hell. But yeah, they started grabbing here and then my ass again, and I managed to get out, and I was like, oh my god, they just started touching me. My friend was just like, nah. And then I felt because we were at that age, it was normal for guys to just grab you and stuff like that. And I just remember feeling super uncomfortable about it, but I kind of just brushed it off as well, whatever, this is the age we are, grabbing people, whatever. It was just really horrible and uncomfortable. And then looking back now, I realise how bad it was. And then literally, I think it was a minute later, we were still walking down the same road, and I kind of tried to forget about the whole thing. And I remember was walking down this road still. It's a very long road. It was by the beach. I was walking down this road, and there was this guy, and he must have been 50 at least. He must have been 50. like 100%, and he was shorter than me. I remember that. He was quite a short old guy, and he was wearing these like rectangular glasses, but they were coming off his nose a little bit. I can still see his face in my head, and it's like awful. But yeah, his glasses was coming down here a bit, and I was very, very, very skinny back then. I think I was a UK size 2 or 4. I was very, very slim and quite flat chested. I still am. I've never developed the boobage, but like I was very flat chested then. But I could see him looking at my chest, and like I was looking at him, but he was looking at my chest. It was disgusting. It was so awful, like unbelievably. And I was just looking at him thinking, like, are we serious right now? Like I was 16, sorry, I was 16, so in the UK that's a legal age, but whatever, I wasn't 18, so it's still gross. And he was staring at my chest, like he was eyes at my chest, and I'm like, what are you even looking at? Like there's nothing there. Besides the point, it was just disgusting. Like, I'm young enough to be your daughter / possibly grandchild. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, that again has been something that has stuck with me ever since then. It's just a vile thing. Like, you just feel like an object type thing. Oh god, it was awful. Again, I know people go through a lot worse. I'm not saying this is anything to be compared with, but this video is like an awareness thing to say, like, everyone goes through these situations, and I feel like people need to talk about it more. So the next experience I had was in 2011, I believe it was. I volunteered at this charity shop. I just wanted to get experience, like retail experience, because I was struggling to find a job within retail. So I thought, let me volunteer at a charity shop for a couple of days a week, for a couple of hours a day type thing. And my sort of manager, or the shop owner, whatever you want to call him, let's give him a name. I don't want to give his actual name. His name was Jeff. I'm going to give him the name Jeff. But yeah, I worked in this charity shop for a while, and the manager was very, very bubbly, very friendly, and I was like, oh, this is cool. This is a nice environment to work in. He was, you know, friendly. He had like a proper London vibe to him. I don't know if you know what I'm on about if you don't live in England, but you know, like a proper Londoner. He was proper like, alright mate, that kind of thing, like Cockney, proper bubbly in your face. And I thought, oh, he's pretty cool to work with, right? So I would go there, you know, happily, or whatever, but his humour started to take a turn. You can just imagine where this is going. And there was another woman that would work every day. Her name, we'll give her a name, was Amelia. She was definitely older than me. She was probably about 40-ish or so. But she was originally from Saudi Arabia, but she'd come over to England and lived and worked and what have you. And she was there quite a lot, and she was always like, we were always talking, and she had quite a, not a terrible life, so to say. She got married, and then her husband was just like, I don't want you anymore, and he kept her son type thing, and she moved over to England to try and get a better life, to try and get a better job, to support herself. It was a very awful situation. I don't want to go into too much because that's someone's personal life, but so we talk about that, and obviously I'll talk about like how my mum was ill and stuff like that, and we would get on really well. And Jeff would always tease Amelia, god, it's hard to remember these fake names, about, you know, because like Amelia would sometimes get a little bit upset, which is understandable. Like, her son's thousands of miles away and doesn't want anything to do with her, so she'd get upset and she would talk to me about it and stuff, which, you know, I've been told I'm quite a good listener, or, you know, whatever. Anyway, so he would always tease her and stuff like that, and then I don't know, like, I just started seeing a different side to him, and then his humour, or his jokes, as he would say, become just really distasteful and stuff like that. Like, obviously I'd always look at the clothes that we were selling, because it was a charity shop, it was like vintage shopping or whatever, and I'd look at them and I was like, oh, this is quite nice, and then he'd be like, oh yeah, you look really good in that, if it was like a dress or something, or a short skirt. And then I'd be working at the till, and the till was like here in front of me, so to say, and there's other things at the side here. I think he kept some files or whatever, and it was quite a tight space, so he would slide behind me, and like, his dickage was like rubbing against my arse type thing. He was like, oh, sorry. I was with my ex-boyfriend at the time, and he's like, oh, you have a boyfriend, he's very, very lucky type thing. He was just making all these snide, disgusting comments that were just not needed, and it just made me so uncomfortable, unbelievably uncomfortable. And after he'd made an inappropriate joke or whatever, he would like say, oh, you know I'm joking, you know it's all a bit of banter, you know, Amelia takes me serious, but you have quite a good sense of humour, which I do have a good sense of humour. But even back then I was just like, oh, like, you're old, you're like 40, 50, you're old enough to be my dad, like, can we stop? And I was 21, I can't even remember half the stuff that he would say, but it was just very inappropriate, especially for a manager, do you know what I'm saying? Like, ugh. So yeah, I've had sort of like inappropriateness harassment at the workplace. Again, it's not as bad as other people go through. The last one I want to talk about was actually very, very recent. So I get the bus pretty much every day to go to work and stuff like that. It's just, I mean, I don't drive, but even if I did drive, I would still take the bus because it's cheaper. Like parking where I work for a day is like £8, and to get the bus is like £3 something, so I'd still get the bus anyway, but whatever, that's beside the point. So obviously I get on the bus quite a bit. I pretty much know all the bus drivers type thing. And there's always this one guy, well there's two guys actually. One of them's a really old guy, again old enough to probably be my granddad, right? And he'd always be like, oh hello gorgeous, you're looking very nice today. Something like that doesn't really bother me. That's just like, okay fine, like he's just being nice. I don't know, still a bit creepy, but whatever. And then there's this other guy who's probably like 40 something. Anytime I'd get on the bus, he'd be like, alright darling, and just be inappropriate, and he'd be like, oh you're looking nice today, how's your day been, where do you work type thing. And he'd ask me where I work all the time. I would tell him because like there's not many shops in the town I work in, so he'd be able to find me, so there's just no point hiding it. So I think this was like a week ago. But I got on my bus and there was this bus driver that I'd never seen before, and I was just like, okay cool, new dude, whatever. And I gave him my return ticket type thing and he stamped it. And then the guy that's always like, oh hello darling, you're looking very nice, the 40-year-old, said, hey I want to talk to you. And I was just like, okay. And he was like, come sit here. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna go sit at the back, just because I like sitting at the back and that's where I normally go, and I'll put my headphones in and just zone out from the world because it takes 30 minutes to get home type thing. So I just, you know, I'll go on my Facebook group, listen to music, whatever. So I kind of thought me saying, oh no, I'm just gonna go sit at the back would deter him from following me type thing. So I was like, oh he's doing training because he had like a high vis jacket on type thing. So I was like, oh he's on duty, he's not gonna come talk to me. And he was like, okay cool. And then he started following me to the back and I was just like, oh my god, are you kidding? I do not want to be sitting with this guy for 30 minutes and God knows what he's going to be saying to me type thing. So I sat down and he was like, he said his name but I can't remember it for the life of me, like I just cannot remember. And he was like, what's your name? So I told him my name. I was like, my name's Lauren. And he was just like, oh you're looking very, very nice today. And I was like, oh thank you. And he was like, I really like you. And I was just like, oh good god. And then I was like, oh okay. And he's like, can you not tell? And I was just like, no. And then he's like, oh it's all about the eyes, like you can tell from my eyes that I like you. And I was just like, oh okay. Like, and he started getting into like my personal space. Obviously bus seats they're not like the most spacious thing, especially in England. I don't know what it's like in other parts of the world, but England buses are tiny. So he was like pretty much sitting next to me, and obviously he's a dude, so his legs, he was full on man spreading. So he was like quite close to me, like I could oh god, I could smell his aftershave, and god knows what it was because it smelled so bad. Yeah, I could smell it, and it was like a hot day, we were having a heat wave, and he was like swaying. I could just see every part of his face because he was so close to me. And well, anyway, so he was like, oh can you not tell that I like you, I see you all the time. And he's like, oh so where you working? I'm like, you already know, you've asked me so many times. I was like, Devlin's. He was like, oh I've been in Devlin so many times to see you but you've never been there. I was like, oh I work on women's shoes. And he's a man, so he's never gonna go to the women's shoes, right? He's like, oh I have to come and find you one day. And I'm like, oh fine. Great, cool. And then he was just like, so do you have a boyfriend? And I was like, oh yeah I do. And he was like, oh how long have you been with him for? And I said, oh it'll be 5 years in May. And he was like, oh are you gonna get married, you gonna have kids? I said, oh no I don't really fancy the whole marriage and kids thing. And he's like, oh me too, oh you're perfect. And I was just like, god. You know when you just like, right, and like what makes you think I'm gonna be with you type thing. Like I've just said I've been with my boyfriend for 5 years. And then he said, so what are your interests? And I didn't say anything about doing YouTube and tattoos and stuff. I was just like, oh you know I like to watch films and whatever. And at this point I was kind of just like entertaining him because I was just like, he is not gonna go away. You know, he's here for the long run. We talked about films for a good like 5-10 minutes, and then he was like, have you seen this film, this film, this film? I was like, yeah, I've seen this film, this film. And then he said, oh, do you go to the cinema a lot? And I was like, yeah, I've got one of those Cineworld cards. He was like, oh, me too, I go to the cinema like 2-3 times a week. And he said, oh, who do you go with? And I said, oh, my best friend and sometimes my boyfriend. And he was like, oh, I would love to go with you. Would you go with me? And I said, oh, no, I don't think my boyfriend would like that. And then let me just stress this to you, Liam is not that type. He would never tell me not to do something. He would never tell me not to go to the cinema with someone or whatever. Like, he would not do that. But I just use that as an excuse, and I shouldn't have to use that as an excuse. I shouldn't have to lie to tell someone to fuck off. Pretty much. Like, it's just, why are people like this? I don't understand. And then he was like, oh, your boyfriend's protective. And I said, oh no, it's just a respect thing. And he said, well, it wouldn't mean anything. And I was just like, okay, I know, but no. And then he started talking about films again, and then he was like, so you sure I can't take you on a date? And I was just like, no. And then he was like, oh, it's such a shame. And he was like, well, if you and your boyfriend ever break up, make sure you hit me up type thing. And I was just like, how? And no. And then he was like, do you have Facebook and all this jazz? And I was like, well, I mean, obviously, who doesn't? So I said yes, and he's like, oh, I don't understand this whole Facebook thing, this whole Instagram thing, this whole social media thing. It's just pointless. There's people flashing themselves on the social medias. They have no respect for themselves or their families or their partners. And I was just like, oh my god, like, what is this? Like, who are you? He went on to say, this is the tattoo related thing, he said, oh, you have a lot of tattoos, I've seen that you have a lot of tattoos and you're getting more tattooed, because obviously I've been getting the bus for nearly like 6 years every day now, and he's been around for not very long time. Like, I think I can remember him for at least 3 years, 2-3 years he's been driving the bus I get. Not every day, like obviously they have shifts and stuff, but I've seen him quite a bit for at least the past 3 years. And he said, oh, I've seen you been getting more and more tattoos over the years, can you stop? Like, you've got enough now. And I was just like, oh, okay. And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, well, you've got enough, like, don't go on your chest. And he said, don't get your heart tattooed. And I was just like, what do you mean don't get your heart tattooed? And he was like, well, you know, don't like someone so much that you tattoo their name on your heart. And I was just like, right. And then he was just like, I think he was kind of implying that he should be the one having his name tattooed on my heart or something. He was just like, yeah, just save that space. And I was just like, okay. And then he continued to say, you've got a lot of tattoos, don't get any more. And then he said, you're very beautiful, you're very graceful, I think you're quite a sensitive person. And I was just like, okay, no, I am not a sensitive person at all. And then he went on to say, you remind me of Princess Diana. And I was just like, cool, I remind you of a dead person, awesome, great, this is going very well for you. And then he asked me again, he said, will you go out with me? I want to take you out. And I was just like, no, I have a boyfriend. And even if I didn't have a boyfriend, I didn't say this to him, but in my head I was thinking, even if I didn't have a boyfriend, you are not my type, you are anti-tattoo, you don't want me to get any more tattoos, you are not a part of my life. And too old for me. He was like at least 40, like I was saying, and he wasn't my type looks wise. I normally am a personality person, but his personality was shit, so he had nothing going for him. Eventually I was getting closer and closer to my stop, and he knew what my stop was, because like, he, you know, I get off the bus every day, and if he's driving the bus he'll see what stop I get off at. And he's like, oh, you're getting off soon, it's been so nice talking to you, you're such a lovely lady, I wish I could take you out, I really wish you didn't have a boyfriend and stuff like this. And I was like, okay. And then my stop come, I was like, thank fuck for that. And I got off and he let me off, and he sort of like tapped me on the shoulder as I left, and I thought, oh my god, like, just don't touch me. And I kind of just got off the bus and I was just like, oh good god. And then I like phoned Liam and I was just like, oh my god, help me. And he knew what bus driver I was on about as well, because he's probably made some kind of remark as I've gone on the bus, and then he's obviously been behind me, Liam's been behind me or whatever, and yeah, he knew what bus driver was on about, because he just gives off these creepy vibes. So yeah, that was just like, again, just very, very uncomfortable. I don't understand why men or women, obviously women can be like this also, but I've only had experiences from men, so I can only speak from that. I'm not being a man hater in any way. I know not all men are the same. Let me throw that one out there. But I've only had experiences from men. I've never had a woman come up to me and just been very inappropriate type thing. But I would love to know what goes through these people's heads when they're so persistent and so just like, I don't know, like, there's a good way and a bad way of asking someone on a date. I would say, like, surely, you know, there's a nice way of going about it. If someone says no, or if someone says I have a boyfriend, leave it at that. It's just one of those things in today's society, and it shouldn't be a thing. We shouldn't have to go through something like that. Again, no matter what gender you are, no matter how you identify yourself, you shouldn't have to go through something like that. And people that do stuff like this who don't know the meaning of no need to get fisted by Wolverine, honestly. But yeah, if you feel comfortable sharing any of your stories, feel free to do so down below. If you want to do it in a more private, secure area, then we can start a thread on my Facebook group. I'll post this video in my Facebook group so you guys can comment down below or whatever, because I know not everyone wants to share their business and what have you. That's it. I hope you guys are all doing very, very well, and until my next video, bye.